welcome back to the Ableton Music Producer Podcast. This is Dan Giffen. I got to hang out with some amazing certified trainers. We talk about production tips and workflows and a lot of other things I think you're going to really like. These guests include Tim Linetsky, also known as Underbelly, James Patrick, David Lopez, Isaac Kotek, and Christina Horn. All of them are rock stars in the Ableton Certified Trainer community. So once again, I'm really stoked for this episode to have all of them. Before we jump in, wanted to let you know this episode is sponsored by Polyverse Music. They make a bunch of unique and powerful plugins for artists that want to push or even break the boundaries of creativity. Everyone that works at Polyverse is a musician, so every plug they create is meticulously crafted with the needs of performers and producers. So for anybody new to Polyverse, they recommend checking out their flagship vocal effects processor called Manipulator, and you can dramatically alter the timbre or the pitch of monophonic audio in new and exploratory ways. It's a crazy plugin. I've played with it. It's actually pretty fun. You can get some really interesting results with vocal effects. So check it out. You can see it in action. Visit polyversemusic.com and get 25% off everything with the discount code. It's all capitals. Live Producers Online 25, and that's polyversemusic.com, and that discount code is good until September 6, 2021. Also want to thank Melodics for being a longtime sponsor for this podcast. They make that really cool desktop app. You can grab almost any MIDI controller, plug it in, and use the desktop app to practice your skills playing keys or finger drumming, or even using your electronic drum kit if you have one. So it's a really fun way to gamify practicing in the studio. The more you practice, the better you get. It just makes sense. So try it out for free at melodics.com. That's melodics.com. And if you subscribe, then use the discount code LPO-20. That's LPO-20. Definitely worth it. Without wasting any more time, let's jump into today's episode with all these amazing guests, and hope you enjoy. Well, sweet. Let's just go around the circle and maybe start with you, Isaac. I'd love for you just to share a little bit about yourself, where you live, how you got into Ableton Live, and any other things you want to share. If you have any pets, whatever, just so people can get to know you.
Yeah, so I'm Isaac Kotek. I live in Portland, Oregon. And what really drew me to working with live was first just my creativity and wanting to express myself. The world is a complicated place, and we have lots of emotions and feelings about that. And we could journal about it. We could talk to friends about it, whatever it might be. But for me, like, music was a great way for me to both explore myself and express it to others. And that led me to starting to work with electronics, with working with Ableton Live and music production is this really cool way for me to blend my sounds together and make something unique. So doing that, 14 years ago, something like that, I started making music with Ableton Live. I started with Live 5, and working with it for years, I found that I could start teaching people quickly how to get from, I don't know what the heck is happening in this program, to making something. So I started teaching and working with people. I help with a school here in Portland and teaching for about 10 years and love it. I love music. And again, it's about the creativity and being able to share that with people.
Dope. Yeah, thanks, man, for joining the podcast. I know you have a long history with Ableton Live and doing some cool stuff. What was the name of that school you just referenced?
It's Champion Sound.
Yeah.
And then my own website is Subaqueous Music. That was the name of my project, Subaqueous. Got tons of stuff on there for people to check out.
Nice. Yeah. And as always, everybody listening, I'll include all the links in the show notes to all these wonderful people hanging out today. Christina, let's jump to you. Maybe share a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I came to Knoxville to study music, classical music, and I'm not going to date myself, but I was using Cakewalk to compose my first tunes.
Nice.
And I think Live came out in 2001, and I was in grad school studying classical piano, and it didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So it wasn't until version 4 came out that I actually started to use the software. And it was, I always say that MIDI was my gateway drug, because once I started using it, I didn't want to do anything else. But also started playing in bands and touring a lot and realized what a pain in the ass that is. Of course, I did it for 15 years, but people started getting pregnant and getting married and getting real jobs. And Live solved that problem for me pretty quickly, and I replaced all of the humans with a computer, which was great, except for my drummer. He stuck it out. He hated it at first. But we were able to go on and play bigger stages, even though it was just the two of us. So yeah, I did that. And now I'm doing this is crazy, but I have a new project called Hot Lights, and we're commissioned to write music for the Discovery Network. So we work on Oprah Winfrey, HGTV, Food Network, Animal Planet. And our most recent commission project that we're working on is sex music. We're writing sex music for Naked and Afraid of Love, mating season, good sex,
Awesome.
afraid of sex, you name it, we're doing it. So super fun. Never ever would have imagined that it would have led me to where I am right now. But
Wow, what a story. Yeah, those are
that's
some interesting projects for sure. Yeah, Ableton Live saved me in a lot of ways. I used to be more introverted than I am now, so it was a good excuse to get away from people I didn't want to see, for sure. Dope. Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
David, you want to share?
Please. David Lopez. I produce under the moniker Didactic, and I'm based here in Atlanta. Originally from Puerto Rico. I've been in Atlanta for about 15 years now. I come from more of an engineering and a musician background. Grew up playing music my whole life. Choir, band, all that stuff. Played sax growing up, and then ultimately got into percussion and drums in high school. I've been using Live, so I've been engineering for about 20 years or so. And then I do a lot of teaching. So I taught for SAE for many years here in Atlanta. And it was about 2009, 2010 that I really got into Live. I was mostly engineering and a Pro Tools guy. And I did some production stuff. I was using Reason at the time. But as the head supervisor, I was responsible, me and my staff, for grading all of our projects, all of the student projects. And we integrated Live at that point, about 2010. So that's really when I dug in and just got a demo. I think it was maybe version 7, maybe 6. And just kind of dug in and learned it on my own so that I'd be able to actually grade student projects and guide them. But yeah, that's kind of it.
Cool. Awesome, man. Good story. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. How about Tim, aka Underbelly?
What's up? I'm Tim. I make music as Underbelly. I started with classical piano when I was 7. Started making beats when I was like 13. I heard DJ Shadows introducing, and I was like, oh my God, how do I do that? So I started collecting vinyl. I got myself an MPC. 2 years later, I discovered Live. It was Live 8. Quickly threw my MPC away. I've been using Live ever since. And a few years after that, I started doing YouTube videos under my YouTube channel, You Suck at Producing. And since then, I've just been continuing to do the videos, releasing music, and doing private lessons over Zoom. So, yeah.
Awesome. Welcome back to the podcast. This is your second time here, actually. I think you were like episode 20 or something, way back in the
early days.
Yeah, man. It's good times. Actually, our friend JP just joined. I'm going to admit him. That was good timing. And he's repping the Slam Academy logo. Shameless plug. What's up, JP?
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is James Patrick, and I'm so happy to be here again with my friend Dan. I'm up in Minneapolis, so, I'm gardening a lot and just making salsas today with my kids, and it's been real nice. Excited to share some production techniques. I've got a school up here on Ableton Certified Training Center in Minneapolis called Slam Academy. We're working on a couple of satellite locations, Denver, Chicago, and Indianapolis, and the pandemic destroyed our lives. So kind of getting excited to get back into it with that, but excited to share some techniques today and see my friends. I know Isaac, a couple of you I recognize from the past. And hi, guys. Great to see you guys' faces. And I don't know, that was my improvised introduction. How did I do?
That was great. A+.
Okay, cool.
A+, man.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
What kind of salsa are you making?
I did some salsa fresca today, which is just like fresh tomatoes because they're all like huge and red and dark, and it's so good. Just you don't even want to heat them up or refrigerate them. Just chop them with some onions and jalapenos and cilantro and salt and maybe a little lemon juice and just chop it up and eat it. That's pretty much what we've been doing.
Ooh.
And then, oh, dude, that's my favorite. So,
that sounds amazing. Yeah. You could somehow
guys,
brand that under Slam Academy and sell salsa to your students.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, it's a good moneymaker. Cool.
Yeah, we use this printing company called Mule Printing or something, and they send us their own brand. It's hot sauce. I don't know if you ever, yeah.
Let's get them to sponsor
Mule
the
Printing.
podcast. I'd love some free hot sauce.
Good idea.
Awesome. Cool.
I'd love to have a little chow down with you guys sometime soon. So that would be really nice.
Well, unfortunately, we can't time travel, and we only have about an hour and 15 minutes to get through a bunch of these questions. So if everybody could just try to keep everything short and sweet and just fire through a couple of these things, I think there's a lot of good wisdom all of you can pass on to the listeners. Let's start with favorite Live 11 updates. And maybe you just want to share maybe 2 or 3 or just a couple of your favorites that you've been using since Live 11 came out. And let's go back and maybe start again with Isaac.
Yeah, thanks. I think a big one a lot of people had was the comping feature. Ableton's already great for, dealing with multi-tracks and editing and things like that, but it really added another layer in terms of doing complicated recording, especially with drum recording. It was just a pain before, and now it's so much more simple to do.
Yeah.
So comping is like, I think that was kind of the flagship of that whole update. And then I guess this is just a small one, but it made a big difference for me is that new hybrid reverb. I love the Ableton reverb, sort of, the normal one. Like, it just didn't have the quality I was looking for. So I'd grab other reverbs. I'd grab a lot of convolution or third-party reverbs. But with that hybrid reverb, it's just enough of the quality, like a nice silky sound that I find myself grabbing it a lot more. So I appreciated that new device.
Yeah, for sure. Hybrid reverb was a big win for me. Definitely. Good stuff. Christina, let's jump back to you.
Yeah, sure. Like I said, MIDI was my gateway drug, so MPE obviously is the cream. So coming from a classical world, obviously it's like now we have the ability to express timbre and pitch and amplitude spontaneously and simultaneously. And every asshole that's ever gotten into an argument with me about how a computer is not an instrument can now suck it, because it's not true, right? Now
yeah.
So yeah, that's my answer. I'm gonna stop there.
That's a great answer. Awesome. Thank you. David, let's jump to you.
Yeah, I'm going to roll right along with Isaac. Again, doing a lot of engineering work and working with bands from time to time, and a lot of multi-track projects. It's all about the takes. The take recording and the comping was the shining star for me, no doubt. And then other than that, it kind of goes along with it, but just kind of some of the like multi-clip editing enhancements, just making things a lot easier for me. So yeah, that'd have to be the top for me, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely some good clip feature updates for sure. Awesome, man. Thanks. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, 100% hybrid reverb, especially the fact that you can now drag in your own impulse responses and just completely transform sounds that way. And then also per track CPU metering, so I know what to freeze.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Yeah, for real. Computer CPU struggles can be so real.
100%.
So, yeah, definitely. How about you, JP?
Cool. Oh, hi. Thanks for asking. I really like all the things that everyone's said so far. So now I'm having to dig, because I'm like, I was going to say that one. I was going to say that one.
Right.
I wanted to check. David, you mentioned you love that multi MIDI clip editing function. Have you ever tried, that key command N? I bumped into that one on accident, and I told Thomas Falds at Ableton, I was like, dude, this N key command, why didn't you tell me about that? He's like, what?
I'm actually not aware. I have not been easily.
Multiple MIDI clips selected at the same time, and if you hit N, it will toggle what they call focus mode. So there's the focus button that allows you to determine in advance whether you're editing the clips, all the clip content at the same time, or if you're just editing the notes within the selected colored clip. So for instance, if you're in focus mode, when you grab notes, like make a lasso move and grab a bunch of notes and move them around, you'll only be able to move the notes that are within the focused clip. Even though they're all selected, you can select the loop brace, the different colored loop braces. And then if you hit N, it'll turn focus mode off, and that'll allow you to go ahead and just simultaneously edit all the MIDI on all the clips at the same time, which is really cool, because say you have like a couple sounds overlapped where they're right at the same, so you have like a snare and a clap on two different drum machines on different tracks, but they're both on the backbeat. By hitting N, you can deselect the focus, and then you can grab one, and you're moving all the MIDI notes that are on the backbeat on all the clips at the same time. It's a cool So that's not my favorite
awesome.
Live 11 feature.
Nice.
But that's just
I really appreciate you mentioning it.
Hidden key command I didn't know about. And I just I think one day I accidentally bumped it and I was like, my Ableton's broken, and I was like, wait, what did I just do? Yeah, that's a fun one. And then the other thing I was going to say is, man, hybrid reverb, putting your own recordings in there. I've been having so much fun with that. Oh my God. I'll just resynthesize or resample or resynthesize some sounds. Sometimes I'll even record my reverb. Awesome. And then just throw that resampled sound into the hybrid reverb, and then I can pitch shift it. And if you use the size control in the hybrid reverb, that works like a pitch shifter, like a transposer. So you can make it super dark or super bright. And then the decay time will fuck the audio file up further. So anyway, so now I'm giving you my favorites. So within the hybrid reverb, I'm just I got to try this. The shimmer algorithm, with which is the algorithm that has the transposition function where you can be plus a perfect fifth or plus an octave, and then you can shimmer sounds. It's like a frequency shifter meets reverb combination. That's one of my favorite under the hood features. I love the way that sounds. It's like sriracha. I just put it on everything. And then I'm just going to stop pretty much, but my favorite collective function is I love using the note probability for MIDI sequencing, where I'll make a steady 16th note pattern, and then I'll turn the probability down on a bunch of them, except for maybe a few key featured notes that I always want to happen. And then I'll let that loop for a while I'm recording to the arrangement, and then I show the comps. And so then I'm comping together. Eventually I'm making a composite of all my favorite random moments. And what's fun about that is while it's playing, you can tweak the synth and tweak the effects. So then all these different comped, resampled, take lanes all have different effects and shit on them. So then not only are there different note sequences because of the note probability in Live 11 that I love, but also the comping. I love being able to comp together resampled random instances to make a new complex singular audio file. And usually I'll consolidate it again and drag it back over to the session and put it in loop mode. And now I just have this completely bonkers electronic sound thing that was happy accidents. It's a cool way to capture happy accidents. This is an electronic music technique. Don't do this in your pop singer-songwriter demos maybe that often, but yeah,
nice.
There's my features. I like that stuff. Thank you.
These are all good features. We could probably spend another 4 hours on this topic if we wanted to, because there's so many things. But yeah, no, definitely you guys stole a couple of mine. Has anybody done much with any video comping? Take lanes? If you drag in videos into the different take lanes, then you can chop them up and sync them up to the music for video. That's been kind of fun lately. I haven't released anything, but I've played with it. I'm like, this is dope. I should release this. But then I never do. So, but that's fun. Also some good effects that I love. The chorus ensemble. That's pretty nice. I love that effect as well. It's a new one. And some of the macro variation controls are cool too, especially with the presets. So the operator presets are really great. Have some good controls you can play with. But cool. Anyway, let's move on to the next topic. So let's share maybe a couple of your favorite MIDI effects and how you use them, or a specific tip, workflow hack that you have with that MIDI effect in live. And let's mix it up. Maybe Christina, we can start with you if that's cool.
Sure. So I do still teach students on the side, and I think some of my favorite MIDI effects maybe apply more to them, but I also use these when I get stuck creatively. Obviously, the scale and the chord MIDI effect tool are the most obvious ones, but if you start to combine them in strange chains, especially if you use the Debussyizer, as I call it, which turns every chord into a series of fourths and fifths, everything sounds good. And then if you run that through an arpeggiator, you get really, really cool arpeggios that you wouldn't get if you were just playing major or minor triads. And for students that know nothing about music theory, or producers that know nothing about music theory, this is a really great way to get very rich, harmonic, complex sounds without having to think about it at all. So yeah, that's my favorite MIDI. Are we talking audio too in the same question, or just?
We'll do audio in a second. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
but
yeah.
That's a great hack coming from a classically trained pianist. I'll definitely have to try some of that later.
Oh, and if you have a push, which most of my students don't, it's even more fun, obviously.
Oh yeah. Everything's more fun with push, really. Yeah. Did you have any other MIDI effects, or is that all?
I'll stop there.
Okay. Cool. Thanks. Let's jump over maybe to Tim. Tim, any MIDI effects, tips or tricks you have, or just favorite effects in general?
Yeah, I like the MIDI envelope Max for Live thing. It's just basically an envelope you can assign to anything. So if something already doesn't have like an ADSR, for example, I use Spitfire Labs a lot, and the 80s ADSR stuff there is like pretty hit and miss. You could just put the MIDI envelope thing on that track, put a utility on after, map it to the utility, and bam, you got an ADSR. So
Yeah.
that's
And just you map it just to the gain knob.
yep,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Dope. Awesome.
That's it.
I have
Just
to try
don't go
that.
plus 24. Don't go plus 24. That's all
Yeah.
happened with the
Yeah,
utility.
you gotta make sure the range is 0 to 50%, and then
Yeah.
you're chilling.
Unless you want your ears to bleed. Yeah, maybe put a limiter on the master just in case.
It's a good idea too.
Yeah, always a limiter on the master. Dope. All right, Isaac, how about you?
Yeah, I find personally, I don't go towards a lot of MIDI effects like in my production when I'm writing, but sometimes I do. And in the rare cases that I'm doing much more randomization. It's because I want to kind of create or generate new ideas that I might not have picked myself. So I'll kind of chain them together. It's more about putting random, which will randomize notes, then putting in an arpeggiator, which I'll arpeggiator after that, or maybe a chord, and then at the end I'll put a scale so everything fits within that scale and that feel. And then I'll just record kind of what JP was talking about earlier, doing like lots of takes, going through all those takes and finding something really fun. And something I like to do too is to just keep playing with the arpeggiator, different styles of arpeggiation. Then you got all these things to play with, and then you mish and mash them together, and you have these really cool textural kind of harmonies you can play with. So that's how I use it. In terms of like the utility part of it, using chord or scale, I don't use that as much. I kind of try to stay away from that, but I love to collaborate with the computer in that way with randomization.
Awesome. Yeah, man. Good stuff. Sweet. Thanks for sharing. David, let's jump to you.
Yeah, so once again, kind of like Isaac, I really don't jump to the MIDI effects all too often. It's kind of like your most basic players, so scale, no doubt, which really I'm just accessing from like the push most of the time anyway.
Yeah.
But it's cool how that's integrated now in 11. I think that was a big, like a great update as well. But yeah, arpeggiator as well, and yeah, chord here and there, random velocity. But yeah, so I'm, coming from, a percussionist background, which I DJ and I play percussion too for many years. I'm not so good when it comes to notation and scales and what's in key and not. So, those are tools for me, just using chords, stuff like that. So nothing too exciting on my end, but I use what I need to get where I need to get when I need to get there,
Yeah. If it sounds good, it sounds good. Yeah.
Yep,
There's like a
no doubt.
million ways to get to the same result for sure.
And for me, it's great. Just chord makes it a lot easier, So
Yeah, I love chord. Have you ever used Chordomat? I forget who makes that. It's
Sounds
like
familiar, I
a
don't know.
Max for Live device that does a lot of really interesting MIDI chord changes. They also make Scale-O-Mat, which has like every scale ever made in the world into one device. It's crazy.
dope. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for sharing. That was just my random thought on top of that.
All good. Thank you.
JP, let's jump to you last but not least.
Dan, you always quit cracking me up, bud. Yeah, so my two favorite, so MIDI effects too, I love learning piano, so I don't like try to treat MIDI effects as a way to like fix my bad music, but I like using them in a generative, experimental way, like kind of like Isaac was saying, like plunk a couple notes, see where they can spray, resample it. That's how I like to roll. I'm back to that generative or happy accident stuff. But the two workflows that I think are definitely my favorite with MIDI effects, one is students are always submitting music and saying, why doesn't this sound so great? And there's oftentimes one or two instruments that are out of key. And it would be a complete pain in the butt to go in and move all their MIDI notes around. So instead, I just say, oh, your chord progression should be in G minor, but it's not because the other instruments are trying to be in that key. And so it's a quick way to throw it on there and just demonstrate to them, this is what it would sound like if your chords were in the right spot. Instead of needing to go in and actually manually move the MIDI notes around, because come on. So that's one thing. The other one, but the more exciting workflow that's not like utilitarian, but just my favorite workflow of 2021, like hands down, is to record random shit. Percussive stuff could be anything, even just a fucking song, pardon my language, throw it into the simpler and slicing mode and then put the arpeggiator on there and then use the steps They have the, the stepping where you could put it in +1 semitone times 8, and it'll do like 8. It'll actually do 9 in a row. So then you can do polyrhythms, like put it on 2 to make 3/4, or put it on 4 to make 5/4. And you can use those steps to kind of salad shooter, any audio recording, and put a flanger on it, and it's the coolest percussion track you've ever heard. I did it with a R&B song the other day, and it was awesome. I don't know, yeah, arpeggiator plus slicing simpler is my favorite workflow ever. For more, you guys just think I'm a crazy happy accidents person. That's just the vibe I'm on right now, I think. So
yeah, awesome, man. No, I actually stole that trick in a track I released not too long ago with the
yeah,
simpler mode slicing. Yeah, you did. That was nice.
So good stuff. Send me the link.
Okay, I will.
Cool.
All right, so let's jump to audio effects. So yeah, MIDI effects is definitely a smaller library. Audio effects, I feel like there's so many things we could talk about here. Isaac, let's jump back to you.
Yeah, so you asked this question of what are my favorite audio effects, and what I wanted to look at in Ableton Live this is something I think Thomas showed me, that if you're looking at in the browser at the name of all your audio effects, right at the top it says name. If you right click, you can actually show your most popular ones. I think it's called rank. Mm-hmm. So if you check rank, then it shows all the audio effects by how often do you use it in your production. Once I knew that, it was like a really cool way to see, what do I grab over and over, right? So something that I find I grab a lot is the saturator, just like those very simple tools of saturator, flanger, phaser, like they are simple, but they're so useful in adding character and timbre and like a unique feel into a sound, especially when you're dealing with like a very basic guitar. You can add all that to really give it life. I find myself moving to those all the time. Yeah, and combining them together to get something unique. So
cool. Yeah, saturator for the win, always, for me personally. I have like a million saturation plugins, but saturator is still my number one, especially if you like mess with the bass and some of the color options too. That's a really fun. Yes, sir. Okay, cool. Let's no particular order. Let's jump to David.
Yeah, so I find myself reaching for glue compressor quite a bit, just throwing it on buses, stuff like that, a drum bus, bass bus. And in reality, I use a lot of third-party plugs as well. Some of the Sound Toy stuff I really like on there, on my buses. But as far as the proprietary built-in Ableton stuff, glue compressor is probably what I lean towards most. Saturate as well, just to give a little bit of that harmonic distortion and just thicken things up. Like that gets thrown on a lot. And I've always got with my templates, I've always just got like, I try not to overdo things with like my different templates, because I want to have some of the freedom to just move around and find different, plugins, different devices for different scenarios, versus like always having whatever compressor on a bus, Mm-hmm. But one of the few things I really always have like the most simplest chain of just compressor and EQ8. It's on every single one of my tracks in all of my templates, because it's just, I want to quickly go and just do that little bit of compression, a little bit of dynamic control, and a little bit of, kind of tonal shaping with equalization. So yeah, nothing too exciting there. I have really been liking the hybrid reverb, which I know came up earlier. So I would put that towards the top, no doubt.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's about it.
Good stuff.
Nothing too exciting there.
Yeah,
but what gets it done,
Right. Curious, real quick, how do you use templates? Like what kind of templates do you use it for?
Yeah, well, so I have really there are two main templates that I use. I have one for like multi-track recording, so like full-on bands, right? So for drums, like a typical setup, like kick, snare, hat, 3 toms, tom 1, 2, and 3, overhead left and right, maybe a room left and right. And then, a few tracks for bass, guitars, vocals, stuff like that. And then really so that's really just like my multi-track template for working with bands. Which again goes back to the whole like takes and comping. I used to use Pro Tools for years and years and years, and I have other friends, engineers and producers, that were hesitant to go kind of full-time to Ableton because of, those features. So that really helps out in that scenario. And then my other main production template is really for my own more electronic based music production stuff. So I'll have just like multiple buses, a drum bus, a bass bus, synth bus, effects, vocals. That's my main stuff. I'm really big on organization, as far as just like keeping moving and staying in the zone. So everything is color coded. I go from, as many do, I start with blue, I go from dark up to light. I get my vocals all the way in red. And so, I usually have like multiple racks, like drum racks, because sometimes I'll like to have like a separate kick rack and like a clap snare rack, and then maybe like a hats and, cymbals rack and percussion, stuff like that. So at the end of the day, it's really two main templates I use, one for multi-tracking and then one for my own in-the-box production. And then sometimes I just open up, a blank session. I actually have my default to just like really simple. It's just like a few audio tracks, MIDI tracks, some time-based effects, reverbs, and delays on returns. Because also teaching a lot, I don't always want to like open up my session and have it take a while and load up some big ass, production template unnecessarily. But yeah, cool. That's kind of where I go with it.
Thank you. Yeah, good to know.
Appreciate it.
Christina.
I'm going to be kind of nasty and just say that I put drum bus on everything.
Yeah, me too.
It's dirty. It feels like cheating. I totally feel like it shouldn't be allowed. But not just on drums, not just on, that. I use it on synths and vocals just to add grit and texture and to crunch stuff up, especially if I'm in a hurry. But like David said too, and Isaac mentioned the favorites. Like if I'm real honest with myself, I have a glue compressor on every bus too, and I use templates, and I'll use third-party plugins on everything, but then I have a glue compressor on top of it to kind of glue it because it works. Yeah. It just works and it sounds good. So why not?
Right.
Same thing, just a generic EQ8 on everything just to kind of tidy it up. And they work. I mean, we had, I always have people from Waves end up in our classes at Pellissippi here in Knoxville. And we've been given a lot of access to plugins over the years and have access to all of it from the school, but I still come back to those over and over again.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, those are all good things. Drum bus on piano too is something I've used a lot, which I'm sure you know. Yeah, that's good stuff.
There's danger in that though with students. Sorry, I just had flashbacks to lots of red meters everywhere, and you're like,
that trim, get the little trim thing, pull that trim down.
Don't understand gain staging. It's okay.
Yeah. You're doing the world a favor teaching gain staging though. It's important. It's really important. Yeah, for real. Tim, let's jump to you. It looks like you've been getting your steps in. You got that standing desk. It's real fancy.
Dude, the standing desk is by far my new favorite. I mean, it's not a MIDI or audio effect, but it's enhanced my workflow.
Equally important. Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, as far as audio effects go, I mean, I'm super basic, so I just put OTT on everything.
Yeah, right.
OTT, the MSG of EDM, as they call it. But another cool one is I'm always looking for free plugs. And a lot of people use RC20, which is like kind of infamous. It just makes everything sound super lo-fi. Mm-hmm. But a free alternative is Color, which is part of the Max for Cats pack. And it's basically just a Max for Live version of RC20. It's free and it sounds sick. It's got the vinyl crackle. It's got the tape wobble. It's got the distortion and all that. And so I've just been putting that on everything. And then just to bring out all the new texture that it adds, you just put OTT on after it. Bam.
Awesome.
And yeah.
That's why I do this podcast, so I can learn stuff like that. I love it. I have to check out that pack.
And I don't know if you guys were as annoyed by this as I was, but I was super annoyed by Live 11 putting all the audio effects in different folders. I thought that was really unnecessary. So you can actually right click on one of those folders and it will just say ungroup and it will just put it back to the regular list of audio effects.
Yeah. So, yeah, I recently found that out. That's a nice
deliberated that on the Facebook Certified Trainer page for a while about how everyone hated that. And the folders, it's like, maybe they could have, I agree. But I still like to keep them folded up just because students,
Right. I mean, I just hit Control F to find everything anyway, but
right.
So,
And if you're just typing OTT every time, I mean,
right, exactly.
It's pretty easy. Well, how about you, JP? Think you're the last of this?
yeah, I honestly, being a like full-time Ableton teacher for since 2003, I use every single audio effect in Ableton because I teach them all the time. I teach all the audio effects, so I'm just using them all the time. I too love my Sound Toys and my Valhalla DSP and stuff. That shit is great, but I don't know. I really have grown to just love so many of the Ableton audio effects. I mean, I like you guys, I use the EQ8 and the glue compressor and the regular compressor and the saturator and multiband dynamics on like every bus. I mean, because they're all just great devices. I don't ever load the presets. I just like the vanilla kind of generic one and dial it in because the interface is so nice and fluid. You know, like if you have those same versions of those plugins as third-party devices, there's a lot of like window management and shit you got to deal with. And it's just nice seeing it all consolidated and approachable, especially as a teaching tool. It's like, dude, you can go ahead and apply that knowledge of those Ableton tools to your own third-party toolkit. But if I had to pick some favorites lately, I mean, I really love the way the Spectral Resonator does polyphonic key tracking. That is fucking sweet.
Yes.
I mean, just play a big old chord and it's just amazing. It's reminiscent of what's that TC Helicon Voice Live box? We have one of those and they're so awesome, but they're just really unwieldy. That thing is just bulletproof. So I love that Spectral Resonator, the key tracking thing. We already mentioned the hybrid reverb. Yeah, I like them all. I don't want to choose a favorite, but I do a lot of mastering and mixing work. So I also just love multiband dynamics. I don't like ever use the OTT preset because I feel like it's like bad juju, but maybe I should get over that and just start slamming it on stuff. But yeah, they're all tasty in my world. So
yeah,
thanks for the question though. Yeah.
Did anybody mention Echo? I don't know if anybody mentioned Echo.
What a miss.
It's a good one.
That surprises me. That's usually always the first one. I
was actually about to. I was going to say, I thought, and autopan like all day.
Yes.
Auto filter all day.
Yes.
But yeah, Echo, it's a great, powerful Echo. Very diverse. I mean, I have it on one of my returns. It's not the only one on my returns in my templates, but like it's usually there. And also with the built-in stuff.
Yeah, the reverb sounds really good in there too. Sorry to interrupt, but that old kind of dirty reverb in the Echo, I love the sound of that thing. It's nice.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, also using the proprietary stuff, it tends to be less CPU intensive, which I really like too, instead of bogging down, the CPU. So yeah, Echo all day.
For sure. And that modulation tab, don't sleep on that. That's my favorite to automate. You can get some weird little lasery, like wiggly sounds out of it. It's kind of fun. Everybody loves a good laser sound. If you don't, just get out. All right, favorite packs. Let's talk about favorite packs. Let's go back to Isaac.
Yeah, so there's so many. There's so many to choose from. As someone who I've created tons of instruments. I have them on my website, Vagueways Music. So I don't use a lot of the packs that give you sounds and samples and things like that because that's the thing I love to do. But there are two packs that I use a lot, both in my classes and also for fun. One of them is probability. It's, again, we've talked a lot about this, like using the machine as a collaborator of, hey, how can I make some random ideas that I wouldn't come to and shape it into something new? Really gets you whenever you're stuck or you're freezed up with ideas. It just gets things moving. It's like, oh, I don't have a blank canvas. I have something that's already started. So I use that one a lot. And the second one, total left field, is Rockvid. Rockvid is a great way that it's a Max for Live device that lets you put in videos and then do different fading between the videos and different effects. It's just a really easy way. I could take students or friends that want to make their live set just a little bit better. It's like, oh, cool, throw in some stock video, put on some of these effects. You can automate it or do it live. And it's a really good start into the world of video and audio. So those two are my favorite.
Yeah, those are definitely in my top as well. Cool, man. Thanks for sharing. Christina, let's jump to you.
I have 145 available packs that I have yet to download in my browser. And I think like I have a little bit of ADHD too. Well, a lot, but I get a little unfocused sometimes. And we have a high volume of tracks that I'm producing like on the weekly basis. And so if I get stuck, I will literally go in there and close my eyes and randomly download a pack just to find some kind of idea to start with. And one that I discovered this week, because that I mentioned we're working on sexy music, lo-fi hip hop from Coma Kid has been really, really great, because I'm not a drummer. So I have a really hard time coming up with drum patterns and even understanding how people play the drums, because you have 2 feet and 2 hands, and somehow I always create drum patterns that are not humanly possible. So I'll go in there and I'll get a MIDI clip, and then I'll just start again, like close my eyes and randomly start moving clips around until I find something that I like or that I hear is great. And some of these artists they're also creating these really beautiful instruments too. So you get the new sounds and you get the MIDI clips, and you have like what I like, it's like having what are those fire starters called that you kind of start up a campfire, the starter log.
Yeah.
Just get in there and light it up. But yeah, for students, that's really great too, because a lot of times we just get stuck with the starting place, right?
For sure. Yeah, definitely. I'll have to check out that pack. Yeah, there's a lot in there. I feel like you need a separate hard drive just for all the packs.
I
So
do.
many. Cool. David, let's jump to you.
Yeah, but I tend not to jump too much into the packs. Like I'm often just using like third-party samples. I have massive libraries from all kinds of manufacturers, but I used to use that convolution reverb a bit, but not so much now with the hybrid verb. I actually had to look. I'm like, what are some of the things that I've used, and had to do a little reference. But one of the ones that I checked out was the mood reel. It had some cool sounds, just with like some interesting textures and kind of starting points. And sometimes when I start stuff out, I don't usually make music necessarily with a particular objective. I'm going to make this type of track, like a house track or a reggae track or whatever it might be. Sometimes I like to go in just very kind of free form and just look for some type of textured sound, something that interests me, and that kind of spurs on everything from there. Maybe start working on some drums or some bass lines based off of that, or it might give me an idea of like a key that I want to go into for production. So, but yeah, once again, not the most exciting answer there, but there's a couple things.
Yeah, mood reel. I'll have to check that out. I haven't downloaded that yet.
Yeah, it's kind of insane. I still have lots of packs that are not downloaded as well. I'm also due for a machine upgrade. My machine is kind of old, and hard drive space. I try to keep most of the core stuff that I use on my internal drive. But yeah, so once the upgrade happens, hopefully in the next year, I'll probably be downloading more of those.
Cool.
Of course, you can always put them on external, but
yeah. I will say I do love my M1 Mac Mini. If you're looking for a specific upgrade, big fan.
I really appreciate that. It's good to know. And I to each their own, but I'm a Mac user for many, many, many years.
Yep.
And I know there's a lot of changes going on. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm sticking with a Mac. It's the only way to go for me.
That's right.
But to each their own. All respect for the PC users.
Yeah.
Hot topic. sensitive subjects matter.
Sensitive
here,
material.
Calm down.
I'll put a disclaimer at the beginning of this.
So James, you're obviously not a Mac user, right?
No, I totally am a lifetime Mac user, but I've been really
Awesome.
reconsidering over the past couple of years. But all my students, PC users, take it personally, surrounded by Macs.
For real.
Yeah.
It's true. It's traumatizing.
You should take it personally.
They should. Yeah.
I'm staying where I'm at, so
You're wrong.
They have to
you
download
reach over
this.
and grab their trackpad to do something simple, and you're like, holy shit, how do you deal with this?
What do I do?
Like, it's impossible to use. It's crazy.
For me, it's overall, not even just with like music production, just in general, the operating system and the ease of use, with Macs, for me, it's just kind of where it's at.
Same.
So,
you don't have to download special audio drivers and crap when you're at the coffee shop without your interface. Yeah, it's
you do need dongles. Don't forget about the dongles.
That's
Hooray!
true.
Hooray!
It's true. Mac loves their dongles. It's a weird word to begin with. Anyway, let's go to you, Tim. Maybe share some packs. Do you have any favorite packs?
Yeah, I like Drum Booth. I've been making a lot of like fake rock music in the box. So Drum Booth is great. It just has a bunch of acoustic drums.
Cool.
And guitar and bass is another great pack for my fake guitars and bass. And a really good electric bass pack is the E Instruments Studio Bass.
Oh.
It's super convincing. People can't believe like it's MIDI or whatever.
What's that called?
Yeah, I love it. It's Studio Bass by E Instruments.
Okay. I've seen that. I'm going to have to check that out.
It's super dope.
Love it. Love it. Cool. All right, JP, it's you.
Well, I too got some Ableton internal shaming messages when I realized that we were getting all these free packs, and then I was like, I don't know. For me, I've learned to love the packs as a teaching tool. I always tell my students right away, you're going to get bored with the core library sounds. Go to packs, download some sounds. It's cool. But the making of the sounds themselves is what is inspiring to me about music. That is the making of the music, is the making the sounds. And so I don't really use samples like really ever that much, I guess, except for maybe the occasional drum kit or something, drum machine. But as far as packs that I love Inspired by Nature. That is my favorite pack in a long time. Tree Tone, Bouncy Notes, Emit, Vector FM. I mean, there's a lot of really dope devices in Inspired by Nature. In my opinion, that like was part of the Live 11 upgrade, is getting that Inspired by Nature thing, because that is wild. It's so much fun, dudes. I mean, but I also I use a lot of Eurorack stuff. I use the CV Toolkit was really nice because I didn't have to have this $800 Expert Sleepers module or my Motu interface. You can shoot right out, and it's real nice for sending CV Gate. Simple, not that exciting, but nice utilitarian pack. And then I also really like the Grain Scanner pack. That's for amazing noises, and that I just love wave scanning and granular synthesis and stuff. And Grain Scanner is a really nice kind of upgrade to the Granulator 2. If you like the Granulator 2, but you want something that's a little more musical sounding, the Grain Scanner by Amazing Noises is a great pack.
Yeah, I just played with that not too long ago. I was pretty impressed with it. It is delicious. Yeah, that's a cool pack. Yeah, and then Dylan Bastian, we jumped on that certified trainer call with him a while ago. He created the Inspired by Nature, and that dude is on another planet. He's next level.
Next level, dude. Doctor Who.
He seriously is. He's a genius. Right on. So let's kind of transition over. Well, let me share mine real fast. I guess some packs, favorite packs is like the throwback pack of Beat Tools. I don't know if you guys have ever used Beat Tools. They have like if you make like any trappy hip hoppy stuff, they have like a really cool hi-hat loops folder in there where they just have like a bunch of fast hi-hats that sound really cool you can play with. And then obviously Spitfire Audio, their like upright piano and their brass and all that stuff. It's beautiful. Shout out to Spitfire. We love them. And then also just as like a utility type of thing, the connection kit pack, I just realized because I was trying to sync that up to my video projector. I have a thing called a Lightform. It's like 3D projection mapping. And it sends OSC out of Ableton really easy. So it's just, I just love that thing. OSC sender.
So are you using MIDI clips to control like your projection stuff? Tell me a little bit about that quick, Dan.
I'm doing automation. So I'm basically just creating like automation, like curves and things to turn knobs to send OSC messages out of Ableton into the projector to do automatic like visual changes. So like, but it has a ton of stuff in there. It's not just OSC. It's a connection kit. It has a lot of different devices and stuff for sending signals in and out. Good stuff. Anywho, cool. Let's jump into the next thing. We only have like 3 more things to share. Any tips when you feel stuck working on tracks? So this could be workflow if you're in a weird headspace, or if you just feel stuck in your song. Like any tips, could be existential or technical. David, let's jump to you.
Yeah, one thing I say when you're stuck is know when to walk away for a little bit. Sometimes I'm just not there. I'm not in the headspace. I'm not feeling too inspired, and I just get up and go for a few laps around the block, and just to kind of clear your headspace and make sure you're coming back fresh. Another thing for or trying to avoid getting stuck or getting you through stuff is I like to kind of break things down into separate kind of chapters, processes. Like I really focus on just developing the concept to start. I'm just about like sound design, bringing in elements, and kind of along the lines of doing that like a super loop type of thing, whether you're in the arrangement view or whether you're in the session, which I tend to really get all of my stuff started in the session view. I just focus on, getting the feel of the track together at once, just focus on bringing all the different elements and the sound design. And then after I feel like I have way more than enough that I'm ever going to use in this track, then I move on to step 2. And I really try to kind of compartmentalize things and move on to arrangement. It's all about concept design first, and then arrangement, focusing on that. And then when I really feel comfortable with that, I specifically move on to mixing. And then if I'm mastering myself, which I often do, then I move on to that. So if you have, a specific goal in mind, an area that you're working in, I think it's a little bit easier to not get so stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of all that's come to mind at the moment.
Cool.
Know when to walk away, take a breath. If it's not right, it's not right. Like some days I just don't have it in me, And other than that, just make sure you kind of know what you're focusing on at the moment. And having multiple projects, in the hopper at once is good too, because you're just not feeling this one and then move on to a different project. And hopefully you'll be inspired there. So, those would probably be my biggest things.
Awesome, man. Yeah,
Off the top of the
I
head.
totally agree with all those things. Sweet.
Appreciate it.
Tim, do you want to expand on that? Any other ideas?
Yeah. I think knowing when to walk away is definitely good, even if it's just for a little walk or break or something like that. Also, when I feel stuck, especially when I feel like I'm making the same thing over and over again, I just try and learn something new. Download a new plugin, download a new pack, watch a couple of YouTube videos. I always find that if I'm making a track and learning something new along the way, the track just comes out so much fresher because you can tell that I was, or the producer was excited when they were doing the track. A couple other things: when you end a session, start the next task before you end. So don't just finish up an entire section and then don't start the next one. Because if you do that, it's going to be a lot harder to jump back in. So I would just say start writing the next chapter, even if it's just a little bit, because that way it's going to be easier to know where to pick up.
Yeah, that's good.
Tips.
No, that's really good, man. Hey, just wanted to remind you that this episode is sponsored by our friends at Polyverse Music. They make that really cool manipulator vocal plugin. They also make a lot of really great plugins. And you can save some money with the discount code LiveProducersOnline25. That's LiveProducersOnline25. And this code is valid from August 31st until September 6th, 2021. So grab that while you can. Also, shout out to Melodics for sponsoring this episode. They make that really cool desktop app that you can download, plug in almost any MIDI controller or electronic drum set, and start practicing and gamify your practicing experience. It's a fun way to learn and practice. Check it out and use the discount code LPO-20 if you join the subscription plan. Big thanks to today's sponsors, and back to the episode. So, Christina, you want to share some stuff?
Yeah, I have two ideas. The first one that has saved me and really changed my life is collaborating. I think we all live in a vacuum and in a bubble, and we go crazy with our productions at home or in our studios, and we have no perspective. So 3 years ago, I started collaborating with Matt Honkinen, who he and I together, we've just been producing at a mad rate because when I get stuck, I just upload it. We were using Splice, but that's another conversation. The whole, like, how do you collaborate on the cloud without having to upload and download shit? But ever since I started doing that, not only have we both like upped our games, because if you work with somebody who you respect and is maybe a little bit better than you at certain things, and you learn as you're going and you get unstuck. So that has been a game changer, just collaborating and working with somebody else. And then the other thing I would recommend people do is go to YouTube and just watch all of the You Suck at Producing videos, because that's what Matt and I do.
Yeah, shout out.
Yeah, shout out. No, honestly, like that's what we do. We'll get stuck and we're like, hey, let's just jump on here and just watch one of these videos, because not only is it entertaining, we usually learn something new.
Yeah.
So
You're too kind.
Good job, Tim.
no, the truth. So yeah.
Nice. No, that's good stuff. Cool. Isaac, let's jump to you.
Yeah, I have two things that really help. One of them is I'm actually a very visual person. I love visuals and story. So I think if you have a story along with your music, it can give you a whole other dimension to play with. So let's say you don't even know where to start. Just make up a story. Where's a character? What room are they in? What are they feeling? What's going on? And that gives your mind so much more to play with. And you will find that you don't get stuck very often because there's just so much content to explore. It could just be pick up a book right next to you and just flip to a page and read what's going on there. You also have the Oblique Strategies by Brian Eno. It's kind of that same idea, like, give me something creative I can just play with here to get rolling. Yeah, that visualization totally changes things for me and allows me to keep moving. The second thing is if you feel like really stuck, like you hate your music, you don't know what to do, and it's just even the idea of making a track is kind of scary, then I tell my students a lot, I dare you to write the crappiest song that ever existed. And it takes off all this pressure of having to make something great. And then you get into the zone of just like being playful and experimenting, and you can be risky and do weird things. And most of the time, you're going to end up making something you like, or end up making something that's really inspirational creatively. So try that, visualization, or make a crappy track.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I wrote a song for my dog, and that's like what everybody's favorite song is of mine. Because I was thinking in my head, I was like, if I was my dog, what kind of song would I make? And it turned out to be like a really great track. So yeah, dope. JP.
The hard thing about going last in this group is that you guys all you're like stealing all my answers. So, but the visualization idea from Isaac, I really like. I also really like the idea of telling your students to make some throwaway beats. Like if you're in the very beginning of learning Ableton, I'll tell them, hey, if you're in level 1 and are at Slam, make a new beat every single day and know that you're not going to share it with probably anyone. You're just going to make it for the sake of like running on the treadmill. And like, that's how you eventually run a marathon or win one, and you have to just not be afraid of sounding shitty in the beginning. So I think that there's some really transcendental, like throwaway beats, like just make me 5 or 6 that you won't have to share with anyone, and going in there and knowing you're never going to put it on your Spotify, like changes the psychology of the whole thing quite a bit and makes it more exciting. So, but I just liked all the feedback from everyone. There were a couple really good ones, but my tips that I think really work for me that I like from Tim, that I kind of have my own iteration of that, is oftentimes I too, just like David, start on the session view and just use it as like a sketch pad until I have oftentimes way too many clips. And I have like all these different clips. And then the hard part about that is if you hit save and then tomorrow you open it up, you'll have like no idea where the fuck anything is because there's just clips all over the place. So to co-sign some of that sentiment earlier that Tim said is don't close when you've got a million clips everywhere. At least copy down, do that Shift Command I, copy down your favorite combinations of clips. So then tomorrow when you open up the set, you'll have the sea of ideas and you can just launch the scene and be reminded of the best moments. So I really like that as kind of a practical thing, to stick a flag in the ground before you leave the planet. You come back and be lost. The other thing that is an advice I got from my mentors like 20 some years ago, which is if you're not sure what to do, just record something. Every good track needs a layer of ambience or a layer of something, and a lot of great electronic music isn't made by somebody who's like, I have this great idea, now I need to lay it down. It's more like just shoving shit down the stairs until it starts falling in a cool way and then recording it. So whether it's internally resampling that generative sequencer idea, like I love using sequencers where I can just hit spacebar and start scribbling. But then record, and if you go home with the recordings, then even if you're not making a track today, now you've got a new sample in your sample library. So don't just record it, but normalize it, crop it, put some fades on it, name it, save it into your library. So then you're going to start to even and you just had a research and development session. You weren't necessarily creating finalized content. So I think recording something in the beginning, like every time you make music, is just really good for workflows in general too. And also helps encourage the idea of having your own sound, because that's your air conditioner in the background. Nobody else has that. I don't know, the acoustics of your closet or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So, anyway, those are my workflow tips, I guess.
My air conditioner is super loud. Maybe I should just sample it, to be honest.
For sure.
Thanks for that idea.
Put the resonator on it, right? I know we did that. Yeah.
Or kick drums. Yeah. I love it on kick drums, though, I will say.
I just record ambience and normalize it so the room noise is all super fucking loud, and then I'll put a resonator on it and an auto filter and then record that, and now I've got a whole ambience to build a track around, sidechain it or something. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. These are all really great ideas. You guys are killing it. So appreciate all the good content you're providing for free right now. People are loving it, I'm sure.
Thank you, bud.
For me, I had a couple quick things, but I always like to work on several projects at the same time. I forget which one of you mentioned that. I think it was David. Yeah. I'm the same way. I can never work on just like one project. You get like tunnel vision and then I hate my life. So I always definitely like to work on a lot of projects and cycle through those too. Okay. So last but not least, if you could time travel and give yourself or your former self music production advice, what would it be? And let's start with Isaac. Let's go back to you.
Yeah, this is a great question. One thing I realized after years and years of music production is I began to miss the first few days of producing music, because the leaps and bounds that you make in the first few years is unlike anything else in the rest of your musical career. Every day you're learning so much more. There's so much to play with. And that amount of change and growth begins to linger a little bit. Like, I'll still learn new things, but the space between is longer, or they're more subtle movements over time. So enjoying that actual process, the process of discovery at the beginning, and keeping it fun and moving is going to make huge impact on you as a musician, on you as a person. You're going to enjoy the journey a lot more.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Not putting too much pressure on yourself. That's a big one. I think every producer at some point gets discouraged and feels like they need Prozac and questions their life because they get into that.
Yeah.
It gets tough.
Yeah, and also, like, no song sounds good until it's done. So don't worry about if it sounds like crap at the beginning. Every song did. It's that same idea, right?
Yeah. Awesome, man. Thanks for sharing. That's good advice. Christina, let's jump to you.
I feel like we all are going to kind of say the same thing here, but I would tell myself to stop being so precious about everything. The first record I ever made was garbage, but it was heartfelt garbage. And I thought that everything that I wrote or everything I produced was amazing. Like it was the latest, greatest thing, was the best thing I was ever going to do, and how would I ever top that? And that mentality slowed me down. And it wasn't until I had the pressure of, an actual contract where there was a deadline that taught me that it's not precious, and that I'm not going to care in 10 years. I'm not going to care in 5 or 3. Like, I'm not going to be so hyper-focused on that, and to move forward and not get so emotionally attached to every little thing that I do. And I don't know if everybody else has that experience as well. There's that emotional side. And I see it with my students too, because they're making their first track of music in a class and they're like, oh God, I suck at producing. And I'm like, no, you don't. You just started. If you wanted to go run a marathon tomorrow, you'd have to start out by running a mile. And that's really freaking hard. So, I think that's the analogy I always think about, is like sports. It feels like you can do a thing and get better at it very clearly. You can start lifting weights and start see muscles, right? You can practice the piano and get better at scales. And there's like a clear line of like, I have arrived. But with music production, there's no, I have arrived, and it's only self-validating. You can only validate yourself, no matter how many accolades you get.
Yeah.
Nobody else is not going to matter unless you believe it yourself. So
it's true.
Got stuck in that, looking for that external validation for a long time. So
same.
Get rid of that.
It's a deep,
never coming.
Wow.
It's a deep, dark path to go down. We've all been down it.
Oh my God. Yeah. I think I sold my soul 3, 4, 5, I don't know, times in a row. But yeah, we've all been there.
Awesome. Good stuff. This is a good therapy session, really, for everybody.
Real talk.
Let's go to you, David.
I can't agree with you more, Christina. At the end of the day, we just need to kind of detach and remember the fun. Like, again, that pressure. Like, there are many times when I'm working in the studio, I'm like, I'm not having fun because I'm too concerned with with the final outcome. So I'm gonna definitely piggyback with that. The other thing with me and doing more of technical side and engineering stuff than production. And even though I studied music, like growing up for many, many years, but around high school, I stopped. And my biggest advice to myself would have been, hey, continue studying music theory. And it's never too late. Like, and we get older, we buy homes, we have kids, like we have 3 beautiful teenage girls over here. Stuff is busy, no doubt. And I'm busy doing my engineering work and DJing and playing percussion. So I don't always get in the studio as much as I would like to. But I really wish I would have stuck with that music theory. But it's never too late. You know what I mean? So I still have been saying the last couple of years, I'm like, you know what? You're really going to learn piano proper. And interestingly enough, that's where I started when I was really young. And then I moved to saxophone. So, I can read music, but like, I'm not that strong. Luckily, I have a good ear, so I know what's in key and what's not. I can just tell, but I really wish I would have continued. And hey, it's still on the list, Yeah. I think probably the other thing, and it's tough again with like the daily grind, but it would be, and I think I wish when I was younger and didn't have kids, I worked every day. Like, I think it's great if you can go in the studio and be creative every single day. It's just that, just being in the zone, and even if it's 30 minutes or it's an hour or it's 4 hours, open up Live, work on something, but yeah, I think that's probably the biggest stuff.
Yeah, for sure, man. Just even a little bit every day. I always tell my students starting out at least 15 minutes a day, because like you spend that much time in the bathroom. I mean, you could do it. It's not hard. So that muscle memory, right? Just like that practice of every day doing it, for sure. Thanks, David. That's good.
You're welcome. I had a crass joke about you mentioning the 15 minutes in the bathroom, but maybe I'll save that.
I mean, it's fine. This podcast,
no, it's all good.
He can edit this part out. He can go for it.
Whatever. I'm just saying, you get older, it might even be more. They say once you get older, it might even be more than 15 minutes.
There's no filter.
Oh, that's pretty tame.
No filters on this podcast.
That's pretty tame.
That was not too over the top.
No, that's good. Awesome. There's no filters here at all. Tim, let's jump to you.
Yeah, I don't really believe in advice. So I would say, take whatever advice you get lightly, because whatever worked for me now might have not worked then. Whatever worked for somebody else at their particular stage in their career would not have worked for me when I was, 14, 15. Everybody has their own path. Even the fact that somebody had already done something before you might have already closed that path for anybody else. So it's just a matter of finding your own niche, finding your own path, and soaking in as much knowledge as you can. But advice I would take lightly.
Yeah, believe in that too. Everybody's kind of going down their own path, making music for yourself, being creative, exploratory. Dope. All right, JP.
I've been honestly these past 10 minutes saying, how could I ever follow up the incredible advice this round? I mean, Isaac, Christina, you guys, the stuff you said, I wish I would have recorded that. They're incredible. Those are great bits of feedback that I would love to share, not as advice, but just as thoughts with my students who are younger producers, because you guys really nailed it. I mean, those are mantras that should be reiterated pretty much in every aspiring artist's, headspace, because we do hopefully tackle a pretty deep introspective, challenge. It's a journey, and realizing that you suck at first and all that. That's everyone goes through that, and that's really hard. And I think for me in particular, if I'm talking to myself, I was always so happy just making sound that I just didn't push myself to really look at music from with a capital M. I just was in my own eccentric little niche. I just loved Aphex Twin and, Autechre. And that's the music I loved, but I didn't spend enough time really getting good at the drums and the piano. Because now that I'm older, I play drums and I play piano, and my music is a billion times better because I play those instruments. And, when I'm even pencil tooling in or showing students how to program their first beat with the trackpad, it's a drummer would play this way, kind of like Christina was saying earlier about impossible drum rhythms. That can be that, and plus obviously the harmonic aspect with the piano. I'd say playing the instruments is something that is really helpful. Now, a lot of electronic music that's great is made by people who don't play any instruments. So if you're watching this podcast and being like, oh shit, I need to learn music theory, I really don't think that you need to. But you do need to have fun. So my secret ingredient was the fun factor. And instead of playing scales, because I didn't want to, I just DJ'd, played gigs, and played with synthesizers and made recordings. And that's just what was inspiring to me. And that's all I did for so long. So I did get good at that. But the holistic, royal music, to also quote Christina, if you're that kind of person that you're just you're in this niche and you're really drilling hard on this one single thing that's your muse all the time, collaborate with other people who are good at those other things, because you hang out with your synth dork friends, and guess what? Nobody's going to be making a lot of great music. Hook up with somebody who plays the harp, or somebody that sings, or a drummer for that matter, and then you can be your voice in that ensemble, and man, shit is going to go vertical. So that's those are advices, bits I would say to myself or other people, I guess, too. So great question, though, Dan. Thank you. And great feedback. Answers, everyone.
Yeah, for real. That was all great all around. And I need to find a good harp player. I think that would be kind of fun. It's a good idea, JP. I'm stealing that.
You know, harpists have a hard time jamming because it's like such a technical instrument. When you're good at the harp, like orchestral level, you just are like a deer in headlights when it's time to just flow, I find, because it's such a technical instrument. So maybe harp was a bad example.
You just got to find the right one, I guess. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for sharing. This has been really fun. I'm sure everybody listening is taking a lot of good information in right now. Lastly, let's just go around and maybe just share where's the best place for people to stay connected with you online, whether it's Instagram, your website. If you just want to give it a really fast shout out, then I'll include all those links in the show notes and everybody can go down there and check them out and follow you. So Isaac, where's the best place for people to connect?
Yeah, thanks. This was awesome. Thanks for having us. So subaquousmusic.com, got tons of free articles, like 200 free articles, videos, downloads, whatever. Check that out. And Champion Sound is the school here in Portland. If you're in Portland, check us out. Love to connect with you at one of our meetups.
Awesome. Cool. Christina.
So I just took down my .com and I just launched a brand new Instagram. I have 0 followers.
Oh.
It goes back to that not being so precious about shit. And I literally right before this call, I created at Hotlights Music on Instagram, so you can follow. Yeah, Hotlights. You can follow the journey there.
I'm surprised that wasn't taken. Hotlights Music.
It's a really good. It's a great one.
Oh, yeah. I'm your second follower right now.
Yeah, I think my mom was the first one.
Oh, shout out to mom. I'm gonna follow your mom too. Well, I'll be friends. I'm just kidding.
This is Stan Guy.
Thank you. Is that it? Just the Instagram?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you can find me here in Knoxville under Christina Horn. I mean, you can Google me. And
cool. Right on. Yeah.
On the .coms.
Dope. David.
Yeah, you can pretty much find everything on my website, davidlopezaudio.com. And then as far as the social, Instagram and Twitter, at David Lopez Audio. And check out the bios there. And there are links to everything. Mixcloud, SoundCloud, Spotify, you name it, all the socials, all that stuff. So,
sweet.
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome.
Appreciate you, man.
Tim.
Yeah, yousuckatproducing.com. You can also check out my YouTube channel, You Suck at Producing. And my music is as Underbelly on all streaming services and platforms.
Sweet.
Yeah.
JP.
Hey, again, I'll just echo the gratitude to you, Dan, for hooking us up and getting us all together. That's really fun. I'm really inspired by you three, and also Tim. It's been cool to get to hear your guys' wisdom. I appreciate you very much. Educational platform stuff. I have this Certified Training Center Slam Academy, which I have to hype. It's really rad. We're doing like kind of advanced electronic music stuff, but we also teach beginners how to use Ableton. We have subscription programs you can get into for $100 a month, and you can be in our community. It's dope. And then my personal music is just under James Patrick. You can find me on all the platforms and stuff. If you are a DJ, you can buy my music at Beatport. But otherwise, if you're just listening, I have a Bandcamp label called The Great Magnet that's all like experimental psychedelic bass music. And then the Beatport stuff is all the techno and house music stuff that I've been doing my whole life. So James Patrick or Slam Academy. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. Yes. Once again, thanks everybody for hanging out. This has been really cool. Appreciate your time. I know you are all super busy, so it means a lot that you took time out of your work to come here and hang and share your wisdom with the world.
Thank you so much, Dan. We really appreciate you as well. Yeah. And all you guys. It's been great, rapping with you guys for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So much for everything.
Sounds good.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Take care, guys.
Peace.
Thank you all.
Later, guys.
Take care, guys.
Bye. Huge thanks to all the guests that joined the podcast today. Also, last but not least, wanted to let you know that Ableton has been kind enough to give away 20% on their website. That includes the latest version of Ableton Live 11 or a push or any of the packs. So check that out. Go to ableton.com, enter the discount code LPO20. That's LPO20 and save 20% on ableton.com products. That's good through September 30th, 2021. Thanks for listening, everybody. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe button. I would super appreciate it. If you want to join the newsletter, go to liveproducersonline.com and you can get the latest episodes when they first come out. So Much love, have an awesome week, and happy producing, everyone.